Well, it's the weekend, and being thus, we go out to the left coast of the United States, and we check in with Michael Snyder, tells you about all the terrible crap he's seen in the last week. How you doing, Michael?
I'm okay, and come on, Alex. There's some good stuff out there.
Yeah.
Cut me a break. Well, no. I mean, Hollywood should cut me a break. But you've got things like Jersey Boys, which is... I would blame New York for that one. I mean, honestly, Clint Eastwood is directing the big screen version of the long-running and still-running Broadway jukebox musical about the rise of Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. And this thing has got road companies, and, you know, people love it and throng to see it. And the Four Seasons, I mean, a lot of this stuff is the music of my childhood. This stuff kind of, via osmosis or something, became a part of the DNA. And so when you see the film, it's remarkable, hit after hit after hit, and all of them familiar. And it's kind of a cool story. And actually, it even includes the Tony-winning originator of the role of Frankie Valli, lead singer of the Four Seasons, the guy who first did the role on Broadway, John Lloyd Young. And he actually, in this film, credibly ages from 16 years old to 60-something. I don't want to spoil things, but yeah, Frankie lives.
Now, let me ask you a question. I mean, on Broadway, sure, he actually sang the part. In this case, are these just lip-syncing the old recordings?
No, they all sing and they all play live in a number of cases. There are some original recordings slipped in there, but he's so good at doing the voice, and all of them are so terrific. They're all professional singers, the guys that play the various roles. Actually, the bad boy Four Season is played by Vincent Piazza from Boardwalk Empire. Tommy DeVito, he's the original narrator in the thing. Eric Bergen plays Bob Gaudio, who was the last guy to join, and actually a brilliant pop composer. He's the guy who actually came up with all these songs, sometimes in conjunction with the producer Bob Crew, who's a kind of a flamboyant gay character in the film and probably in real life as well. But it is a Broadway jukebox musical, which means it's sort of shallow and surfacey and wants to pull your heartstrings and get the songs out there. And Eastwood does great with the emotional story of how the boys from the hood who had to deal with mobsters like Gyp DeCarlo, played quite hilariously by Christopher Walken, by the way, how they had to go from that to show business, and also the travails of show business.
When I saw the trailer on this thing, all I was waiting for him to say is more cowbell.
I put my pants on one leg at a time. Anyway, I mean, you know, Walk Like a Man. What kind of name is that for a song? No, but in fact, the guy is not so much involved with the show business end of it as he is being from the hood and kind of being a guy who looks out for them. He is, in fact, the group's godfather in a way. I enjoyed it despite my caveats about this kind of cornball stuff. And I think it's your date movie of the weekend, unquestionably. And, you know, Eastwood, not so good with the musical parts, but he doesn't have to be when he actually brings the sensitivity to the you know, interpersonal drama and strife. But, you know, it's corny, you know, and you know what corn does? It kind of clogs up the heart a little bit. Anyway, Jersey Boys, moving on from that milieu to the director of Crash and the writer of Crash. I believe he wrote and directed both. Well, I know he wrote it. Paul Haggis has become quite the commodity since winning the Oscar for Crash, and he kind of can do whatever he damn well pleases, and this is a very self-indulgent film, third person, which is three stories of love that are wound together somehow, and they're set respectively in New York, Paris, and Rome, and he's got a great, great cast. Liam Neeson is basically the Haggis figurehead here. He's a writer who's in Paris awaiting his lover, who is played by the lovely Olivia Wilde. But there are stories within stories here, as he's got a separation situation with his wife. And meanwhile, in New York, Mila Kunis is a retired soap opera actress who had a child with James Franco's hotshot artist, and they fell out, and now there's a custody battle going on. Meanwhile, in Rome, Adrian Brody is sort of a knockoff fashion guy who ends up meeting a gypsy woman in a bar and getting involved in her problems, because that always happens when you go to a bar in Rome. Anyway, these stories are interlocked and interlinked, and I really like the film, although I think there's going to be a lot of negativity. One of my colleagues at the first screening, rolled her eyes after it was over, and I thought, well, maybe not everyone bought in, but I kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was pretty thoughtful, and there are some interesting twists and turns, and third person, not a great film, and I may have enjoyed it more than Crash, but that doesn't mean it's a better film than Crash. And, maybe you don't have the stomach for this kind of thing, but I kind of like the puzzle that plays out in third person. Okay, moving right along, let's go to Venus in Fur, which is a hilarious, wild, two-person drama based in some capacity on the classic novella by Leopold von Sacher-Masoch, which inspired a Broadway play that won the Tony by a guy named David Ives, and that inspired the script here. But what's cool about this is it's the latest film by Roman Polanski, who's still a refugee or a escapee, or what would you call a guy like that on the run from the law after all these years? In any case,
fugitive.
He can't come back to the States as he's making films in Europe, and he has his wife or longtime companion Emmanuelle Seigner playing the female role, who's a beautiful and troubled actress, and the terrific French actor Mathieu Amalric, the guy who was in Grand Budapest Hotel, Diving Bell, and Butterfly. He was the villain in, I guess he was the villain in the second of the James Bond films to star Daniel Craig, which I think was called Quantum of Solace. And so he's a wonderful actor. I mean, and these guys are basically in a theater. She's come to audition for a role. He says no. She pushes herself on him, and they begin this dance of power and sexuality that plays out over the entire film. It's, I kind of got a kick out of it. And for the most part, it's Almeric's performance, stellar. And Seigner isn't quite in his league, and the climax is a little shrug-worthy, but it's kind of sexy and funny and twisted. And if you're interested in what Polanski's up to now, this is a pretty cool film. And again, it's a two-person drama. It's set in one location for the most part. So you got to have a little bit of patience on that, but I really, really got a kick out of it. Okay, here's a film I'd like people to seek out. And a guy I know actually is responsible for it, and he was one of the creators of Rango, that animated feature about the lizard in the Nevada desert. It was directed by Gore Verbinski and featured Johnny Depp. James Burkett helped create Rango, and now he's made a film on a shoestring that he wrote and directed, which is a very cool science fiction movie and a very thoughtful one. Coherence is a clever, kind of brain-twisting, modestly budgeted, but devilishly puzzling new live-action sci-fi film. It's about a dinner party held during an astronomical anomaly, this weird comet. And when reality starts to come apart and unhinged for these 8 people who are gathered at this party, you got to pay attention. But I think it's really well worth it. I was very, very enraptured by this. And again, there's a lot of twists and turns, and maybe you want to know a little bit about quantum theory, but they do a kind of mini tutorial. I thought Coherence was very cool. And the most familiar face in it is Nicholas Brandon from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and I think Criminal Minds, and a couple of those shows. I think maybe he's a boyfriend on one of those CBS procedurals, but he's very good in this thing as basically kind of an actor who's struggling at work. But everybody in the movie acquits themselves well. I really thought Coherence was cool. The Rover was a sensation at Cannes, and it's a dystopian drama set 10 years after a global economic collapse. And this really ruthless former soldier is pissed off because someone has stolen his car, and he will do anything to get his car back. And it turns into sort of a on-the-road buddy picture gone bad when he encounters this sort of mentally damaged sharpshooter. And the two guys are Guy Pearce as the soldier and Robert Pattinson from Twilight. Believe me, I'm not on Team Edward. I never was. I hate those films. But Robert Pattinson gives
the fact that you even called it Team Edward shows you're lying.
No, I can know something without liking something. What are you on Team Jacob? Oh,
I wouldn't
God.
know the difference between the two.
Okay, Robert Pattinson plays the shiny-faced vampire.
Oh, all right. We most
You
of the
asked
audience,
for it. You asked for it. I know a little bit about it. Anyway, I hated those movies. He's very good in The Rover. And FYI, The Rover is the second film by director David Michaud, whose first film is unbelievably great. It's called Animal Kingdom, and it's about the Melbourne crime scene, and
Yeah, I
it
remember
features
that.
Jackie Weaver's breakout performance as kind of a Ma Barker
Yeah,
type.
I remember
This
that.
guy directed that, and he directed
well, that
The
was a good
Rover.
that was a good film. My girlfriend saw this film last weekend, and she wasn't that hot about it.
I thought not quite as good as Animal Kingdom, but I really liked it. It's funny. It's down under or whatever, so you're going to think of the Road Warrior and the road. You got your apocalypse happening in this like desert area.
She
But I
just
thought it
came
was
back,
cool.
and I said, "How was it?" Because she really wanted to go see it, and I didn't particularly care. And she came back, and she went, "Eh."
Okay. Finally, let's wrap it up with a really interesting documentary and a French movie, which is a biopic. Code Black is the documentary. It's a very provocative movie about what goes down in the emergency room, the busiest emergency room in America, Los Angeles County Hospital. And you get very up close and personal with some grisly victims in this thing. And what it does is it shows the speed and the need and the tension that goes on with these doctors, nurses, and various employees in a situation like this. And it also raises a lot of important questions about the need for humane and available medical care. It's the work of a physician, Ryan McGarry. He's the director of this thing, and you've never been this close and in the middle of an ER. And it's some tough viewing in some cases, very grisly, but very provocative, and I thought worth checking out. Finally, I want to just mention Violette, which is a movie. It's a biopic about one of the feminist writers who first broke through in the 20th century, a friend of Simone de Beauvoir, and a very troubled woman, Violette Leduc. And this is about her life from the end of the World War II through into the 60s. She was very troubled, and she has a very sad and engaging story. And she's played by Emmanuelle Devos, who's a wonderful French actress. And Sandrine Kiberlin plays Simone de Beauvoir. It's a very thoughtful, very well-made film, written and directed by a guy named Martin Provost. And that's it in terms of new movies.
Yeah. In television, I've got a show that I've only watched one episode of, so I can only vouch for the first episode, and it's enough to make me want to watch the second episode. It's a new AMC series called *Halt and Catch Fire*. Have you heard about this?
It's sort of like a historical. It's almost like the Jobs movie, only fictionalized.
I kind of like to think of it more of Mad Men set in the tech business in the 80s. There's enough there to bring me back. Let me put it that way.
You were buying in, is what you're saying.
I'm buying in so far, and and then they had the final episode of Fargo this week, which is one of the best final episodes I've seen of anything.
Really?
Yes, just superb.
Any truth to the rumor that this is it? They just wanted to do this one and done series?
No, I think they're going to do more, but it's not going to be with Billy Bob Thornton and Martin Freeman. No spoilers, but there's no way they can.
Oh, great. Thanks, man.
Well, look, you knew neither of these guys was going to come back for a second helping. They got other work to do, especially Martin Freeman. But it just won the Television Critics Choice Award for Best Miniseries. So, and that was against the likes of Luther and Dancing on the Edge and American Horror Story, and
that's good news. And I was very, very happy, if I may, that Tatiana Maslany got recognition for Orphan Black. That is a prodigious
a show I have yet to be able to even get through 2 episodes of.
Love it. It's hilarious. It's funny, and it's also exciting and engaging.
I'll have to binge watch it. Right now I've got too much on my plate.
But she is a wonder. I hope at very least she gets an Emmy nomination for her performances, plural. Anyway, I'm Michael Snyder. You can follow me at Twitter at Culture Blaster, or go to the Michael Snyder's Culture Blast Facebook page. Like it, just check in, and it's always a blast and always fun. Alex, we'll see you next week.
Okay, thank you, Michael. And we will see Michael next week as he takes a look at the movies for you on his Culture Blast. So be there, or be square, or something.